Right, what's up guys? Welcome to the People in Housing podcast. I'm Matt Davis and I look after the assets and surveying for near people in the north of the UK. I'm really excited to host our first ever episode in the podcast channel. So the reason behind this podcast, what we're doing it for, it's really to facilitate having some real raw, honest, open conversations with people of like the leading people and voices within the sector. So it's not just one of those podcasts where we're trying to tick a box. We've been doing recruitment for 18 years now in the same housing sector. And we're really serious about taking and adding value to our clients and customers. So hopefully you get some good insight along the way. In terms of this first episode, we're going to be addressing specific challenges that housing associations are facing at the minute when it comes to damp and mould, how to tackle them, and what it means for tenants ongoing. So now I've got all of that out of the way. Thanks, Danny. I'm really happy to introduce you as our first ever person on the channel. Recently appointed head of damp and mould at Places for People. Firstly, can you obviously tell us a little bit about yourself, and congratulations as well on the role, mate. Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, I suppose.
Yeah, so I've been in housing for about 15 years now. I know I don't look old enough. But I have various roles all across. I think it's my fourth HA. I'm currently at Places for People, as you said. Recently taken on a secondment to look after the sort of damp and mould offer at Places for People. Like everyone, there's a huge surge in demand, and I've got a bit of experience in that area, so stepped in to help out.
Cool. How long have you been at Places now?
It's about 8 months in total, and a couple of months in this new role. I've done quite a few jobs, and my sort of background's mainly in estates, but it's not too dissimilar. Did you come off the tool? You don't look weathered enough to come off the tools. Yeah.
How did you get into the sector and everything?
Everyone really has a story, doesn't they? To say, how much they like to help people and how much whatever it was. Mine wasn't necessarily like that. I did, if I'm being really honest, which I always will be. I sort of fell into housing, but it sort of clicked with me and my past. But I grew up, in council housing, so it's easier for me. It's always been easier for me to put my foot in the customer's shoes, I guess, because I've done that. That little boy in the home was me once, so that's how I like to do it, and it just helps me connect better. As I said, it's something that's always sort of resonated with me. It's something that once I got in, I thought, okay, this is me. It sort of clicks and gels with who I am as a person and my past.
Yeah. No, everyone's from so many different backgrounds in life, and obviously you can connect probably a lot in a lot more depth when you've been there and understand what these people are going through. Obviously, in terms of damp and mould, it's a new job title that I've seen coming out and emerging, and we were chatting just before this started about healthy homes and different titles of similar sort of stuff, which never helps a recruiter with Boolean searches and things like that. But obviously, it'd be really good to understand how it's affected your organisation specifically, and what the impact has been over the last few years. Obviously, since Little Howard in 2020, hasn't it?
So that was the big thing, wasn't it? It's been rumbling on in the background for a while, and there's always been sort of pushback from the sector to say, it's lifestyle or whatnot. But our Gashak died. He was 2 years old, and he died in December 2020. Up in Rochdale, and that sort of changed everything, because for the first time, the coroner ruled the death as saying, it was directly attributed to damp and mould. So it probably took us a couple of years to really feel the full effects, but certainly from, I'd say, November 2020, certainly in the HOs I've been associated with, it's probably about a 250% increase in cases, because you've had that awareness. To customers, obviously, and rightly so.
A bit like Glenfell in a way,
isn't it? Absolutely, but there's you can feel the sort of fear around it. Because it affects. Damp and mould can affect children under 14. It can affect people with respiratory issues.
Yeah.
If you're a parent, like I am, I get that, and you don't want one's too many, and you certainly don't want to be. We don't want to see another one ever. So I get there's a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of issues that cause it. Obviously, the media, the government, everything. It just really increased awareness. But if you look at that and say, okay, that was the first domino to a degree, but in the background, you had COVID,
Yeah,
You know,
forget about that now.
you forget because we just carry on with it, don't you?
Yeah.
We've had COVID, we've had huge supply chain issues. We've got a war in the Ukraine. We've got a war in the Middle East. You may know you've got resourcing issues in the fact of skilled people.
Yes.
Then you've got inflation issues, getting skilled people for the right price.
Energy prices to keep the house warm. Yeah.
Because of that, because of the cost pressures, because of the inflationary pressures, we haven't invested because there's been rent caps.
Yeah.
So we haven't done the sort of core investment in our homes. Also, there's a cost of living crisis in the sense of because of the wars, the cost to heat the homes has gone up massively. So all that's created a sort of perfect storm in the background of this. And then, we've got organisations saying, well, yeah, of course. I think we had the conversation before, a lot of the time, and not always, to some of the most vulnerable people in society to say, well, absolutely, put the heating on, but make sure you open the window. And it's quite a sort of perverse message in a sense. So it's how we sort of balance that, ensure that, it's not a choice between heating and eating, because we're there to help. We should be the good guys, and there is a narrative in the background that we're not quite, and we need to do so much better in that. And that's why earlier to what we said, that's why I stayed in it. That's why I wanted to do it, because I feel that's
you would have been in that situation if you were born it this time.
It was me on the adjacent to that and this.
Yeah, okay, I understand that. And in terms of when it all happened and kicked off, and the cases, like you said, increased, how did you initially react as an organisation to that particular incident?
Yeah, I guess it was panic stations. I guess, if I'm honest, not necessarily not my organisation. I've been at a few since.
Yeah, okay.
But it's just because that could happen to you. That sort of list of jobs, that work bank, that age whip, whatever you want to call it, you don't want a case like that in there. So it was about reviewing that. What do we do? Look at our processes.
Yeah.
Look at whereas.
Was there any processes in play before, like?
Yeah, but it just wasn't. It was a priority, but it wasn't the priority, and that's what really changed things. Because within that pile, there was something. It was a needle in a haystack to a degree.
Yeah.
But within there, you've got one that it can't go wrong. If there's, for argument's sake, 1,000 repairs, and one of them, and you miss 99% of those, but you've got, most of the leaky taps or whatever. I'm doing repairs. I'm doing repairs at this service.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you've got one in there that it's an extreme case of damp and mould where the hazard's so extreme, it's a risk to life to customers.
Yeah.
You think about that level of risk is just unimaginable for an organisation to carry. And again, back to our core purpose, we're there to enable the customer to live in a healthy environment, in a warm, safe, clean, affordable home and space, and a community where they're proud to live.
Yeah, because obviously the recent changes with legislation on Awad's law, I know it's still yet to actually land, but you've got the policies there, procedures. I think it's 14 days, isn't it, to get on site on a property, and then 7 days for the repairs.
Yeah, no, Awad's law's in. It's been in since 23.
Yeah.
Probably the guidance perhaps isn't there. Change of government, it's not quite in there. We know 14 days for an initial survey.
Yeah.
7 days to start the remedial works after. Emergency works, 24 hours. But if you think back to what we said before, the ways that we've traditionally worked, yes, it's been a priority, but most jobs in the sector have always been sort of 28 days and an emergency. 24, 48, 7 days, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
But we've never worked in this, and it's never really mattered as much if something slipped. We've got to effectively create a system where nothing can slip through the net. Nothing can, because it's just unimaginable if it does.
And currently, as you say that, do you feel like, how do you feel as a company that you've managed to implement and those challenges initially faced? Because obviously there's resource, you haven't had damp surveyors. For me as well, you see all these new qualifications, trying to identify them for people that can actually do the remedial treatments correctly and make sure it's not just a check, which isn't done correctly. So I don't know from your perspective how those challenges, or those main ones, were going through that.
I'm fortunate in a way. I think since 2020 I've worked at three places, so I've seen a few models, and they all sort of work. If we go back to the change in regulation, change to the Social Housing Regulation Act 23, it almost says, and it's giving rough guidance, but it almost says a competent person needs to go out. So it's not necessarily a surveyor. Because of the surge in cases, it's very hard. Surveyors don't grow on trees.
No,
and
I wish they did.
And if I was a surveyor, it's a good time. You know, it's a good time to be a surveyor at the moment. So there's many ways, always, that you can do it. You can either put a surveyor on the front end and see. Usually they come back with quite a big parcel of works, and not all those works are pertinent to damp and mould. Or you can actually say, okay, well, we're going to flip it the other way around and manage it from a risk perspective, and just get eyes on from a competent person first. And that may be just an initial treatment, some awareness. And then if it's really bad, yes, okay, because you're trying to protect your resource as well, as I said, because with the caps, that compounds. That's another issue, That compounds, right? So if it's like 2, 3, 4, the longer that goes on, you know, you could be talking the difference between, you know, 3 and 30 million that you haven't got. That, you know, because everything else has gone up, nothing else has stood still in that time. So it's about how to best protect your resource as well, but whilst ensuring that the risk is managed to the customer, because that's all that matters. It's not about it's not about bricks and mortar, and it never should have been. It's about the customer.
And with, obviously you mentioned there, with competent staff and professionals going out on site, do you have sort of things in place which define that, or that could help, I suppose, add value to other people listening here?
Yeah, I guess that's a little subjective.
Yes,
I guess that's
it is. Yeah.
I guess that's a little subjective. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, in terms of, you know, we as part of Mr. Blakeway's guidance and the Ombudsman, that was always being finding our silence. That was always to ensure that everyone was trained, everyone was made aware of it. Certainly where I've worked, we've done, you know, pieces in terms of raising wider awareness on causation, as in the why it happens, what's going on. And then, you know, we split that into doing the right thing, not walking by. You know, it's almost like an empathetic. I don't really think you could train for empathy, but you can try and catch it, maybe try and change, try and frame it differently. So a lot of that training's gone on, but then actually you've got, okay, but the cases are going up, but you need skilled people that are finite to go out and do it. So it's all about that training as well, and training them up to go and do, you know, get as many right first times. But it goes deeper than that, because, you know, you don't want to go out as quickly as possible and not deal with causation
correctly. I was going to ask
that's the symptom. You want to address the cause. So okay, you get out and deal with the risk, but how do you manage those works? That's the complex thing, in how you package those works up, how you sequence those works. Because if it's, say, I don't know, penetrative damp, okay, that's great, maybe from the gutter, maybe, you know, getting access to the building. We're going to send a plasterer first, and it's still wet, because a lot of the times that doesn't really matter. But with damp and mould, the nuance is it's effectively like a planned responsive repair. It's a little bit different, and no one quite gets that, and it just lands differently. You try and explain to people, and again, the models that we've used for 30 years probably don't quite work. So it's about not only the competent people, it's obviously about the decision makers, to make them aware in the right way, to make the financial people aware in the right way, to make your customers aware. And that's quite a hard comms piece. And back to, you know, make sure you heat your home and make sure you open your windows. That messaging's quite hard, and to make it land with so many people well for it to work is a challenge.
Yes, and being potentially as being a tenant, if you're in a property and you don't have any of this knowledge surrounding even the age of your property potentially, do you find that quite a difficult educational piece for tenants and as an organisation to navigate that? I don't know how you tried to go about that, because it is.
Well, again, back to Mr. Blakeway, they effectively said and spelt it out for us, and I hate that they had to. Was to say that, you know, drying your washing and cooking your dinner isn't like it's not your lifestyle. It's living. You know, you can't just say that. So it's how to balance that. And that's hard, and because we view the world, don't we, from our own perspective. And, you know, I had a mum and dad that loved me very much. I got a house. My dad taught me how to manage that house. And you then go around the world thinking, okay, no, this is what you don't know that. But because that's your lived experience, and then you go to someone that actually hasn't had that at all, and you've got to explain that to them and do that. And one of the things that really annoys me is we say, oh, it's an education piece. And I'm like, I find that it just rubs me the wrong way. It probably shouldn't. But I think it's an awareness piece, and I think there's a big difference. If I say I'm going to educate you, come on.
A bit condescending in a way.
But that's what we've always done. There's always been, we've always gone out in suits and told people what to do, and they think, oh, are you collecting the rent? Where it's not that. The dynamic's totally changed, whether it's COVID, whatever it is. I've never really agreed in that. So look, there's an awareness piece, working with each other, helping each other, making each other aware, keeping everyone, safe and sound and happy.
And healthy. Yeah, and in terms of the next sort of 2 to 3, 4 years down the line, is there anything that you feel needs to be done more of?
Yeah, someone asked me, they said, what's the next thing on the radar? And I was like, well, yeah, okay, you can see that maybe part ownership, maybe
a bit like the new legislation coming out.
You think, okay, then you think, maybe service charge.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's probably damp and mould, because I don't think it's finished yet. We are just about to head into the winter. I think the guidelines will be issued, the last 2 times they've been issued with more information, it was in November, just before peak. It's a new government. They're going to want it to land. You could argue that they're more socially, more of a social core to this new government. They're going to want this to land well.
Yeah.
We should rightly be doing our jobs, and we should rightly be doing it well. But I think, again, that raised awareness, because now you see, and it's not always from the kindness of their own hearts, you can see that, solicitors are making people aware.
Door knockers, I was going to ask.
Of this, so it's not just awareness, to just make people aware for their own good.
Yeah, to stay healthy.
There's also, what's in it for me, awareness as well. So, we've got to look at that. So,
is there a lot of cost implications at the minute with
massive.
With finding that? Because obviously it's extra resource, and I've heard it on the radio. A lot of times with disrepair, similar sort of area.
Look, damp and mould largely forms 80-odd% of disrepair cases, because it's hard to crack to get it right. There could be access issues. There could be, it could take time to do some of the. Okay, you go there and there's I don't know, trickle vents to do and just minor works and whatnot, air vent, new fan, whatever it is. Might be a new roof. It might be, it might be actually really complex. And in that time, absolutely, we're wide open if we haven't got the processes right, and if we can't show that we've administered all that right, because that's the big thing. Okay. There's lots of moving parts. It's moving really quick. There's new cases coming in. Where are we, and what's our record keeping like in that? That's one of the big things to watch massively.
Okay, and what makes you say that?
Because it's so complex, and because it moves so much, and we're dealing with people that have lives. We can't just say, thank you very much for your report. Yeah, okay, yeah, we've got that report. Yeah, thanks. Hi, here to do and just think they're going to be on a hook waiting for us to come in. We almost, we don't work with them. We often don't ask them when they'd like the appointment, the customers.
Okay, yeah.
We don't,
everyone's working, or they might be out,
that sort of thing, because we do to them as a sector often, and we need to massively change that. And I think we're getting better at it.
Just when I think about it, because you mentioned access as well, with COVID, people are going to be at home. Obviously, there is PPE and all of that nuances and challenges. But did you find actually getting into the homes a lot easier when people were off with COVID?
Yeah, obviously there's lots of things we had to put in place to enable it to be safe to do that. But what COVID brought effectively was a sort of Amazon expectation of delivery.
Yes.
Now, Amazon...
I've not ever heard that.
But Amazon, and I think lots of people get this wrong, they say, we need to be like Amazon. You don't. Amazon are just a logistics company, effectively, that do the logistics really well. We just need to do our core purpose, understand what that is, and do that really well. And our customers will be happy. And I venture that it's not too far away from saying warm, safe, affordable. that's it really. In
That
a
would be the
nutshell.
pinnacle, wouldn't it, really? Yeah.
That's it. But we tend to, there's a tendency to bike shed. There's a tendency to put a lot of effort in things that the customer doesn't really want. We think they want.
Okay, rather than actually getting it from them directly and having those levels of conversation. Okay.
Absolutely.
And what do you think, how do we stop this happening again in the sector?
Yeah, and that's the thing, you know, we need a zero tolerance approach, and that's the big thing that the Ombudsman's pushed, and Mr. Black, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's never going to be, that doesn't mean zero cases, but I think I'd really like it to be at the point where, you know, I phone you up as a customer and say, you know what, I'm looking at your humidity readings, I'm looking at the temperature of your home, and I think there could be an issue. I'd really like to come
mapping that out with
I'd really like to come out.
Yeah.
Why does it take the customer to tell us? You know, we should know. We're the so-called, we're the experts, so-called, aren't we? So let's show that. The tech's there. We can do this. It's going to take us a few years, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But we can get there.
And it's probably quite a nice place to go, actually, with you mentioning technology. Do you think there is, like, what ways can, because I go to Housing 2024 conference, and I feel like every stand is tech, or I feel similar at the minute. But is there, in terms of technology, do you think, how can we innovate it and monitor to help with what you were saying there with damp and mould and prevent this from happening again?
Well, yeah, it's just effectively doing planning, isn't it? You know, we do stock condition surveys.
Yeah.
We do gas surveys, that if your property's got gas, we're there pretty much, you know, once a year within the home. If the property's void, there's a chance there. So all these opportunities where we're there, we can get beyond the threshold of the front door.
There's no access issues there. When no one's there.
No access issues. I know it's sort of adjacent to that, but there's an opportunity there to say, well, if there is an issue, you know, we can. There's smoke alarms now that can tell you about humidity and temperature that we can put in.
Did not know that. No.
Yeah. So it's just about the past was the past. And there's lots of people we rely on. As people we rely on our sort of experience, don't we, that guides us through whenever we're unsure. That's out the window now. That's gone. It's changed. It changed everything. You know, December 2020 changed everything. We need to really think about, and it doesn't have to be cutting edge innovation. As I said, it's already there. We almost need to back a horse and go with that. You know, we need to say, okay, no, we're gonna, you know what, we're going to roll this out. We're going to roll this tech out, and we're going to watch it. And we're going to have healthy homes officers, whatever we want to call it. And they're going to be sitting in the office or at home, and they're going to get a ping. And when it pings, they're going to phone the customer and say, how we do, Mrs. Jones, whatever it is, how you getting on?
Yeah, and just more a better communicational piece. We're people at the end of the day, and
that's it.
If you feel like you can just get heard, sometimes that's all it takes. I remember my mum and dad used to say about coppers coming in for tea, and do you know, back in those days,
no one cares what you know till they know how much you care, and we just need to really give that. And I said, you know, we can't train in empathy. I'm not a believer in that. We can make people more aware, but how nice to flip it on its head and say, we don't want there to be an issue. You know, we'd really like to come in and help you. We'd like to work.
Go a long way, I think.
Massively.
Yeah, 100%. And in terms of like the financial implications for social housing providers, when addressing sort of damp and mould issues in their property, what do you think those look like? Because I appreciate your stock levels are going to be different to others, and the ages of the property and everything like that. But in terms of the actual financial implications for it, what do you think about that? What's to say?
Yeah, it's massive. It's huge. You know, if you go back to, you know, 1918, so what's that, just 106 years ago, for take my shoes and socks off. We had the Addison Act, didn't we? And, you know, Viscount Addison was a Labour MP. We've got Labour in now. Yes. He was the one that sort of pushed for, and it was to have effectively fit men for fighting in case there was another war.
Yeah.
But it was council housing at scale. I just think it's so interesting that 106 years on, we're pushing for council housing effectively. I know it's for a lot for HAs, but at scale, and to ensure that people are in the homes that it's safe, because those homes now are way past their natural lifespan. They need tons of. They weren't supposed to be up around for 100 years.
Yeah.
You know, they need, a lot of investment, and a lot of the investment we've done, we probably compartmentalise that investment and said, yeah, okay, so we'll make it really warm. Okay, but then the house couldn't breathe. And it creates, issues.
I've had these conversations.
Just put it in segments, because again, back to my earlier point, I don't want to trash the sector. No. That's not me. But we need to do a lot better in the sense of we've just compartmentalised an issue rather than looking at the piece holistically. We just said that's an issue. Okay, let's deal with it. Yeah. It's no different to Grenfell. We have to be told not to put something flammable on the outside of a building. If you boil it down to that, that's horrendous. That's horrendous. So, we need to be doing much better. We need to be, you shouldn't need to be told. We shouldn't need to be told. We should be the experts in that. But
what do you have any recommendations for people listening in terms of from other housing associations and organisations looking to tackle their own damp and mould issues?
Yeah, I think honestly,
I know that's quite ambiguous, but
no, and I'm sure everyone's looking for some silver bullet to kill everything. But I think it's just back to basics. I think it's back to process. It's back to looking at your core purpose, why you're here, what you're trying to achieve. And that should be all around. The health, safety, warm home for the customer, and it's about getting to know your customers. A lot of the time we haven't asked about the customer's vulnerabilities. We've asked about the problem. We ask about the property. We don't ask about the person enough. And if you think, okay, you came into social housing when you're 18, for argument's sake, and it's your first home, and back to what I said earlier, you might not know how to manage that home as effectively. And we've worked together now to do that. Well, okay, 20 years have passed. You could have 3 kids. You could have an elderly parent moving with you.
Yeah.
We have none of that information.
Okay.
So how are we going to react effectively to how are we going to
it's hard, isn't it? Yeah, because everyone's so different.
It's about that knowledge bank about the person. It's the person. It's not the property. Let's focus on the person. Because your case might not be as bad, but because you're vulnerable, you may have, you may have young children, you may have respiratory issues, whatever it is. You may need to move, and the issue is not that bad. One size doesn't fit all anymore. That would be my big thing.
Yeah, moving forward. No, I totally agree. It's a bit like recruitment, in a sense.
Well, I think you said, didn't you? Okay, you want to recruit some people for Damp and Mould. Well, not every organisation says it's like doesn't do what it says on the tin.
Yeah, they might call it something different. Some people are really looking for the CSRT qualification, which is coming out. Yeah. Surveyors that I talk to absolutely hate that, going through that. I don't know if you. I'm not sure on your calls actually that or anything like that, but that apparently it's a very difficult qualification to obtain. I was speaking with another HA where they were trying to actually incentivise their surveyors and paying them more depending on if they had that qualification to get them to want to do it. Do you have any stance on those sorts of
Personally,
ways?
No. Personally, no. Cringe myself. Yeah. Look, I didn't have any qualifications until I was 32. I went to uni. I think I said
a couple of years back.
2 years ago. I went to uni then. My degree's in housing studies as a whole. Okay. I can't go down the rabbit hole of repairs. That's not necessarily me. I'm more of a process guy. Yeah. But all I'd say is you see lots of people with lots of qualifications, and it doesn't always mean anything. And I know that we're trying to push that for everyone to have their professional status, and I would go for that because that's what I've got, and it gives you a really good broad understanding. Yes, and I think that's better, I believe. But I would say that, right? But you can look, the difference between, as I said, that competent person, and the difference between a disrepair surveyor may be a lot. It may be a lot. However, you just need to care.
Yep.
You just need to think, okay, this is an issue for a customer. How do I help?
How do you measure empathy though with this?
It's the throwaway thing.
Yeah, it is.
It's like a football manager, isn't it? Saying, "Oh, we didn't pass well. There wasn't as if we didn't show in a fight." It's intangible, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not there. But that's what we need to. That's what we need. That's what we need
Somehow
more
try
of.
and measure an intangible element.
Yeah,
Which
because it's your culture. How do you measure culture? Yeah, you can do a survey, you can do that, but it's even when we look to recruit people, often we've just done it then ourselves. We've said, okay, if they need qualifications, they need this.
Okay.
How about them as a person? How about their background? How would they act to this? I remember many years ago, because I'm tall, right? I went for an interview with the police.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, and I turned up, and it was about customer services. And I thought, why is this about customer services? And I just
didn't clock at the time.
Didn't clock it.
No, okay.
But it was probably the best thing ever because that's all the police is. They're there to help. How can I help?
Yeah.
It was a customer services desk.
But you wear a nice hat.
Yeah, I was thinking it's going to be like the bill, you're kicking doors.
Yeah.
It's not like that.
No. And you ended up here instead.
Yeah, living the dream, mate.
And with, I suppose, obviously you lead the Damp and Mould. I don't know how many's in your team at the minute. Is there specifically anything that you're doing internally that you think is pretty cool that you could shout about with keeping upskilled ahead of and being proactive as a
just making the organisation aware. HHSRS, obviously, we think at this stage is probably more than likely going to be tagged on to the
decent
changes
homes as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So only really we've ever used that from councils or from say stock condition surveys. Well, now actually it's going to be a thing that we're going to be measured on. There's 29 hazards. Damp and Mould's just one.
Yeah.
So whether or not that changes, I've heard. I don't know if it's common knowledge, or I don't know if I'm just making it up. But it could be that goes down to 20 hazards. But nevertheless, we need to. It's moving. It's in a state of flux, and we just need to be able to flex with that. So a lot of HAs are doing sort of like task forces.
Okay.
We don't know what's happening, but we need to be ready so we can move quickly, so we can mobilise quickly. So it's just a bit more fluid than rigid. If something happens, I don't want to write a 300-page business case as to why, because that's paralysis.
It's too late. It's like waterfall and agile if you in technology worlds, isn't
exactly.
it? Yeah,
exactly.
And speaking to the customers, getting what they need, and then trying to adapt. And be as agile as possible. But it is sort of reactive. But like you went back earlier, said it's like a planned reactive.
It's like a planned reactive. Yeah, it's weird.
You might be onto something.
The world's changed, and if you think of tech, as you said, how quickly that changes. By the time you ramped up and geared up for something, there'd be 3 more updates or something on it. Yeah. It's no different than what we're doing.
It's just like mirror. It's a good way to look at problems, I suppose. And am I allowed to say retrofit or wave 2 or 3?
Retrofit's the answer.
Yeah,
100%. Have we got the money for that? I doubt it. I doubt it. And I think sometimes there's a tendency in the sector to maybe, because it's cool, right, and it's awesome and it does work. Have we got the money to do that? I don't know.
Because there's some elements out there that there's facts that say retrofit measures may have contributed to
massively.
Obviously the damp and mould, the issues you're currently facing.
It's a living, breathing thing, a home is. And you've got people in there. I had a case once a few years ago, and we were trying to work out what the issue was. And the issue was dogs. Dogs. The customer had big dogs.
Oh, so their breath or something? I don't know.
Yeah, the moisture content from the dogs.
Never thought about that.
Yeah, but you wouldn't, would we? Because what we're focusing on? The property.
Yeah, the property, I suppose. Yeah.
The property.
Yeah.
And that was the thing.
We had 2 big dogs.
yeah, 2 massive, probably like the size of me.
Oh, okay.
But they were breathing out moisture, so it was in like a flat, and they were just breathing out the moisture of a family of 6 or something.
We've got the guy with 2 St Bernards in here, so I might ask him if he's got.
It's probably dripping on his condensation on his windows.
Oh my god! And obviously you're technical. I'm not.
I'm really not. But
you probably are so more than me. In terms of like changes in building ventilation, air circulation resulting from the retrofit, as we were discussing, how do you feel like that impacts the risk of damp and mould in the social housing unit?
Yeah. Again, I just think there's a tendency to perhaps over-engineer something that's perhaps not a problem. If you look for a long many years, we've never had the issues we've had. And the one thing that's changed is people notice the heating's on there. So lots of people will say to me, you know what, we should run it by archetype, because that's the answer.
Okay.
And I'll go, okay, yeah, no worries. Have you ever met anyone, or have you ever had, an elderly relative or a young relative or a friend that's moved into a home, that the home, it's had no issues for 20 years. They move in and it's a massive issue. So yes, whilst retrofit will help, whilst understanding the buildings will help and looking at archetype, whilst looking at water tables, whilst looking at whatever else you want to look at, that's great. Let's understand the customer. Because again, if we cross-cut that by, okay, we're going to look at water tables, we're going to look at archetype, we're going to look at household median income, because that's going to give us that. We're going to know if you can afford to put the heating on, because it may be that you might just need some support on how to manage your finances. Maybe that you might need some support in terms of energy vouchers, whatever it is. We may be able to apply for more benefits for you, whatever it is. We may be able to help that, and that's a person. That's not a property.
And the person can help their own property and living situations
Absolutely.
As well. And like you said, it isn't an educational piece. It's just a communication piece that you're here
a conversation
to help and support.
And that's all we're there for, to say, hi, my name's Danny. How can I help? It's a different conversation.
Yeah, I'll just get you a cup of tea.
There you go. I'll be round.
You look like a friendly chap.
I'll be round for a cup of tea.
And in terms of like key factors that housing providers should consider with damp and mould and this implementation of retrofit, is there anything that you'd want to add on there, or?
As I said, look, I'm not a technical guy. There'll be some people that will be up all night thinking about all this sort of stuff.
I know we mentioned a few.
Yeah. And they geek out, and it's lovely. I love the passion for what they do. It's amazing, and I wouldn't ever want them to lose that. But I'd really just focus on how that impacts the customer. Don't just look at it as a it's a property's a live thing, and we don't look at it as that. It's someone's home. People come and stay with people leave.
Weather conditions change. We got these heat waves. We got this.
It just moves. I remember we were looking at monitors, and the monitor kept pinging, and the customer phoned up and said, "Oh, look, I've got a real big issue." And it's saying it's like 35 degrees. And we said, "Yeah, it's 35 degrees outside." It was just the temperature.
Yeah.
No, it's right. Just the temperature was 35 degrees everywhere, and they must have had the windows open, and it was 35 degrees.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, but that's again, hot. Yeah.
Again, it's just temperature moves. It goes cold. It goes hot, and it's how you effectively manage that. And it's hard. It's hard to have that conversation with people, because they think, okay, it's hot, bad. We'll get like humidity. We'll get humidity readings.
I wouldn't fancy 35 degrees.
I'm a polar bear. No, I don't like it like that. But no, my point is, it's that education piece as well, because humidity. If the humidity goes up in the home, it's not a risk. Yeah, longer term, absolutely. We need to understand the why, but there may be just really obvious causation to that. So it's just that awareness piece with the customer about how we effectively manage that and working with them.
Okay, and in terms from a staffing perspective, from myself here, because I'm having conversations with asset managers, people like yourself that head damp and mould teams, that sometimes you do, like you say, need people that are able to get to the actual identifying the cause, so then you can fix the solution rather than just prolonging it. But obviously with the Awad's law changes and how quickly you've got to get on there and all that going on at the same time, do you think there's enough people in the sector, especially with the stigmatism and it being in the news, an attraction piece to actually wanting to help?
Yeah,
it's really hard. I just find it quite difficult.
I want to say something that I won't say. Something that I won't say. But I'd say if you thought of the best and brightest people, that's who you want to attract to the sector. Yeah. Do we do that? I don't know if we do. I don't know if we do.
How do we do that?
Well, you'd hope it would change over time. As I said, that the lots of people that tend to be in quite senior positions now, a lot of the knowledge they have doesn't mean anything. It can't be applied. It's changed. It's moved.
Yeah,
it's going too quickly for them, and they're just as scared with it. I think I'm not saying that youth's necessarily the answer. But I am saying to, in terms of the cultural piece, you always need to grow your own. I always love, to have apprentices and graduates and through to sit with the right people and learn the right behaviours, how to do that. That matters more. Yeah. And that's hard, but it goes back to how you're recruiting. What are you recruiting for? What are you
looking for? And the intangibles.
And the intangibles.
Going back to intangibles.
Richard Branson, he always says, recruit for attitude and train for skill. You don't just want skilled people. You want people that care. You want people that are in it, that want to do the right thing. Because, what do they say? Integrity is doing the right thing when no one's looking. Those sorts of people. You can't train that to a degree, but if you sit down with really good people, and over time, we can really build something together. But it's very hard when there's almost like a bun fight across. There's even bun fights within businesses for the right talent.
Yeah.
internal. You might know about. You may not know.
Oh, yeah, I might.
Yeah, there you go. But we said before, being a surveyor now, I've heard tale of surveyors moving every 3 months for quite a serious pay rise. And that's never happened before.
It is it is worth pointing out because commercially, if you do have damp and mould or disrepair at the minute, I feel like those salaries and what people are able to achieve, unfortunately, it's all transparent, isn't it? And they are moving, and it's making everyone else have to bump their own commercials up.
And I'm good, and I'm really pleased with them. I'm really pleased with them. I want people to do well. I'm not that kind of a guy.
Yeah.
But I just think, okay, but with that comes a responsibility. With that comes a responsibility to do the right thing. With that comes a responsibility.
Because there is budgets at the end of the day as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And to be able to deliver to customers that you want to do.
Because your wage, it's really easy for me to sit here and say that, but your wage doesn't matter what money you're on, whatever you can't. It's like a professional footballer, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't try harder just because you're on whatever 500 grand a week, whatever. So the real top earners are. It's not they're there because they're good people. We can't ever do that. So it's just about having and nurturing the right environment that enables people to want to stay because they're bought into what they're doing
and what they get from it and how they help.
And that can't ever be about money. So okay, you might be a surveyor that wants to go off and get a couple of thousand, whatever it is, somewhere else.
Yeah.
But actually, we're going to stay here. We're going to look after you. We're going to train you. We're going to support you. You're going to care about you. That's a different offer, and that's not always about money.
Yeah, it's inquantifiable, isn't it? That's the difference. Yeah. How do you weigh up happiness or what it means to someone, and that's individual to that surveyor or that person.
But that's what we've done, haven't we? In housing, a lot of it. Again, I'm not on the personal attack about anyone because it's really, really valuable role. And most CFOs run HAs or are starting to now. It's all about the bottom line, or it has been.
I feel like the world's like that.
But it's changed.
Yeah.
It's really changed. They're almost the sort of heir apparent if they're not already there, and everything goes through them. And absolutely, it's a crucial piece. I don't know if that's right. I don't know if I like it. I don't have to like it. Maybe
I'm probably in your boat a little bit because I just like working and being surrounded by people I enjoy spending time with and helping, and recruitment to me that's what I'm doing because I'm operating in a sector where I can actually see difference and impact from the people we place. So, and then that knock-on effect is that to your customers. So it's great to see that, and that's why I do recruitment. So I am in your boat with I probably don't like how some of the world, I'm not going to say all the world.
No, it's just the businesses. I know it's got mate.
It's a business.
Profit's not a dirty word, No. And I'm comfortable with HAs paying, bonuses and benefits and things.
I quite like that in terms of if it incentivises or if it does bring a skill set you need in your industry, because that's how the private sector are acting and people are trying to look after themselves.
And we're trying to compete for the top talent.
Energy's expensive.
No, it is, and it's hard. Look, it's hard work. It's often, how many times do people phone me up and say, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well done. That doesn't.
I'll do that tomorrow.
No, but it doesn't.
Today,
but it doesn't because it's the environment you're in. The same with disrepair, I guess, to a degree. The same with ASB. Thank you very much for the way in which you handled my ASB case of my customers.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's not a thing. But we need to lead with a lot of love, a lot more love. and I'd really like a metric to show. Okay, yeah, we're deemed on how much money's in the bank, and of course, yes, we need to do that, absolutely.
Yeah.
That customer, what you said before.
What about a presence? You could do how much you're around or surrounded with your customer, and I don't know. There's loads of different. That's probably where my head's going.
Yeah. Just reward people for going above and beyond. I think that's the big thing. I don't want to see anyone rewarded just for doing the basics of their job. Getting up in the morning.
Job spec,
I'll
take it off.
job specs, for a lot of time, lots of top companies don't have job specs, especially startups. But we're sort of in the middle of a sort of council and a sort of private business. We're not quite a contractor, we're not quite a council. HAs is sort of in the middle.
It's a funny position to be
in. It's so, but I always think I wouldn't even know what's in my job spec, and I wouldn't care. Because you're there to do the right thing always for the customer.
Yeah,
that's it. That's my job. Yeah. That's it. And you don't, if I ever, that's the big thing for me. Ever say it's not my job.
Well, Danny, I feel like you've looked after me.
No, I'm the calmest guy in the world. But yeah, not that. It's not on.
No. Danny, before we wrap things up, obviously I really appreciate there's some really interesting bits in there, and just having you on the channels.
You guys, honestly,
really insightful.
Yeah, you guys have always been good to me. I think you placed me a couple of times. I think I got a lot of staff for you when I was starting out in my career. I think Ryan really sorted me out with getting some really good people at a good rate. So yeah, and it helped me look good. So yeah, all good. Happy to pay that forward.
Pay it forward. Oh, I love that saying. Yeah, I too appreciate that. Perfect, Danny.
Top man.
Really appreciate your time.
No, good stuff.
Thank you.